And joining us now on this broadcast is Dr. Mukesh Aghi, President and CEO of US-India Strategic Partnership Forum. Dr. Aghi, really appreciate your time. As someone who understands the domain of international institutions and trade, how do you look at the ceasefire that has now been confirmed and, of course, which is now in place since 5 p.m. today?
Well, you have to look at both from the perspective of Pakistan and India. For Pakistan, this is not a sustainable war. Its economy is in a mess, almost bankruptcy. IMF just gave them $1 billion+ as a loan to sustain itself. So it could not go beyond 1 week of high escalation with India itself. From India's perspective, you have to look at it has a robust economy which has crossed over $4 trillion in GDP. But more important is, as you see the recalibration of trades taking place, one thing it is important to understand that while the stress point between India and China, sorry, between US and China stays on and the tariff stays on up to 100%, India and the US will strike a trade deal and most probably around 10% tariff between reciprocal tariff between the two countries. So what happens is it drives US companies to look at India as a next manufacturing site. So it is important that there is a sense of peace in the region. It serves India's interest in the long term. But at the same time, India has made it very clear to Pakistan that the cross-border terrorism is not tolerable anymore. And this is not just India. After October 7th, Israel made it very clear. The rest of the world made it very clear. So I think overall it is a plus point for India. India comes out ahead as far as the regional conflict goes.
And would you agree that India has managed to communicate rather effectively and forcefully to the world that that it remains firm and its stand is uncompromising against terrorism in all its forms and manifestations? And Prime Minister Modi in particular has been speaking about anti-terror operations, and he has actually walked the talk through Operation Sindoor.
Absolutely. I think there is a level of tolerance which a nation can take. And I think India, under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, has been able to take that. But I think he came out with a resolve that is, we will basically destroy the terrorist camps in Pakistan. And the armed forces of India were quite effective in their endeavor to destroy those camps itself. But the message has gone out that I think if you want to punch back, India will punch back much, much harder. It sends a message that you cannot leverage non-state actors anymore to drive your foreign policy. So hopefully, I believe that Pakistan got the message. I think the message is very clear in Washington, D.C. also. DC realized that India has a resolve and it has to step in and convey to Pakistan it makes more sense to have a ceasefire than continue with the belligerent action against India.
Do you think the sanctioning of the loan, the announcement of which came in 24 hours ago, has questioned the effectiveness of institutions such as IMF, the International Monetary Fund, if they are actually funding terrorism in a way, because they are not really holding Pakistan accountable for all the money which is being given by institutions like IMF?
No, absolutely. You have to understand that this is a tranche of $7 billion loan which was sanctioned for Pakistan to have certain conditions on its deficit and on its exports and on its economic agenda itself. And I would not spend too much time or energy on $1 billion going to Pakistan because as very, very small sum, it has not much of an impact. Yes, the messaging is very important. And I think India should basically endeavor to get back Pakistan on the gray list here. That will have a much, much stronger impact. And I think India did a very effective and efficient job communicating to the global community as to why it has taken the stance of fighting back terror. And I think that energy should be put into trying to put back Pakistan back on the gray list.
Would you say then that when India carried out Operation Sindoor 4 days ago, and it did tell the world that it's a victim of terror, Pakistan continues to be the aggressor here, and then it can actually fight back and protect its citizens?
I have to give credit to the Ministry of External Affairs. They basically went down with a very clear messaging to the global community, starting with the big fives down to the European Union and rest of the world. And the message was very clear. We are the victim, and we have been basically targeted on a religious basis. As Hindus, men were killed in front of their spouses and families itself, and this has to stop. And the world community came out supporting India's position. And more important, you have to understand is that when India retaliated, there was no objections from any of the countries. Yes, there were statements made that, hey, we need to get into some kind of a conversation. But at the same time, the world understood and empathized with India that it cannot continue to take in all these blows coming from cross-border terrorism to its citizens. So I think the Ministry of External Affairs and its team were very efficient, very effective in their messaging, and the message was conveyed. In fact, if you look at from President Trump down to France's president, down to any other country, they came out supporting India's position to fight terror. And I think you have to understand very clearly the cross-border terrorism does not work anymore. We saw that after October 7th, how the Israelis went after the Hezbollahs, the Houthis, and Hamas itself. And I think India has to take the same position. So I would say the effectiveness of messaging by the Ministry of External Affairs to rest of the world was very, very successful.
Dr. Aghi, and this is with regards to what Government of India sources are telling us, that this is a conditional ceasefire only on kinetic action, but as far as the trade, diplomatic and water sanctions are concerned, that is going to continue. How do you look at that development?
Which is true. I think basically, if you look at the overall strategy of India is basically to punish Pakistan. And yes, you do have immediate impact of destroying the terror camps. But in the long term, India has to very seriously look at the water diversion going into Pakistan, because unless there is some kind of a effective threat, which is economic, which has an impact on Pakistan, this process of the Pakistan army waging terror war in India will continue. So I think India has to seriously look at diverting the water. India has to seriously look at basically containing the trade, unless you have some change in behavior and posturing from the Pakistan side. Otherwise, I think what we'll see is continuous effort by the army to legitimize itself by invoking terror campaign on India. So I think we support, from that perspective, both economic and other aspect of punitive action by India to contain this terror.